Hey everyone, Happy New Year and all. So this video, I gotta restock some items. I was on Etsy last night and I saw I have 12 items sold out. So I'm gonna be tackling two items, a shawl pin and my leather scribe hairpin. You see the shawl pin, I think it was 2 years ago I did a video on that. So I'm not gonna go into great detail with that. Now the leather scribe, it's actually really a simple project. And the reason why I picked these two is because they're both made out of 1/4 inch round steel and 8 inches long. Yeah, so I got to get some of that steel cut down and the forge lit and we'll get going. I also picked up a new mic, the DJI Mic. And we'll see how that works and see how it works with the forge running. And hopefully I got a little better audio with my videos. So sit tight and let's have some fun. 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. Five eighths, 5/8, no, 5/16. Why do I have 5/16? Oh, I'm getting low on 1/4 inch. There we go. Kevin, make a note to get more 1/4 inch. Thank you. So one thing I like doing after cutting my steel on the bandsaw is I like to deburr them at the end. Let's see if I can get that in nicely. Yeah, you're probably not going to see it. And that's just taking it to the bandsaw. Yeah, it's just my own personal preference. Yeah. So the shop is going to look a little like my anvil placement and forge placement is going to look a little different now because of the CNC unit. It took up some floor space. So what I have right now is not what it's going to be later on. I just haven't had a chance to unbolt the anvil and move it to a new spot. There's going to be a couple of changes this year. Because of the CNC taking up so much room, I have to basically rearrange this whole downstairs to make it useful. So you'll see those changes throughout the year. I'm not going to get into too great detail of what they're going to be, but because we can do a whole new another video on that. So anyways, got the steel in the forge. Let's get some going. So I got actually 5 pieces of steel in the forge right now. I find it's actually, when I'm doing these, 5 is a good number for me to just keep going. Now with both of these, the shawl pin and the leather scribe, they get a taper on both sides. So I'm basically going to go through and with these 5, I'm just going to do the taper on both sides. Really, I'm only talking to show you how the mic is working. So yeah. And it's amazing how just a simple change of moving where the forge is from where the anvil is makes a huge difference. and how well I can work. Another thing I'll say is also I'm using the opposite side of the anvil I normally use, and that's just because of where all the chips are and stuff like that. I normally like working the other way. The corner on the side I'm working on right now, so the furthest away from me, has the most is the most beat up, so I don't have as much space to work with doing these tapers as I normally would if I was on the other side of the anvil. So that too, I'm learning how to work around that. Like my anvil is a Peterite. It's 100 years old. I don't think it's ever been repaired. So I got it from an auction, a Mennonite auction, Amish auction, that is around my area. And so it's probably have seen that much years of use. Yeah, I'm sorry, this is not as interesting as a video as some might think, but you know, sometimes you got to do the get the work done, and I guess it's really showing what it takes to do this, you know, as a business. So I guess it's valuable. And I really notice the not the nice edge when I'm doing these little curls on the end. I did a small batch of these in November, and I really noticed how that kind of was a little bit weird for me, let's say, because it doesn't have a nice crisp edge on this side at all. And especially in the middle, it actually goes in 1/4 of an inch. So that's something that is in the plans to get addressed, just not quite yet. Gotta wait for the warmer weather for that. Now going back to what I was saying, January being weird for me here in the shop. My only heat source right now is the forge, and this is I have made improvements with the insulation in the shop, but and the drafts, but you know, it still is basically right now we're at the freezing mark. When it gets to -10, it's not too bad, but when we get to -20, it's pretty unbearable to be in here even with forging. So everything takes a little bit longer. What you can do in one heat will now take you 3 or 4 heats. So sometimes, especially when I get down to that -20 Celsius. This is always the trickiest part on the shawl pins, is trying to get those curls looking around the same size. So doing the second one, I'm always a little bit slower than doing that first side, just because I'm trying to keep on looking to make sure I don't go too far, too big, too small. Especially when I'm doing a small batch like this, it's easy to get into a rhythm where a couple of them will get a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, and you have to go back and fix that later. So just taking you a little bit more time on this last one, or the second one, really helps that overall look of it, as well as how much time it takes to make. Now to the jig. This is also another example of how the cold really changes how you work in your shop. This forming around this jig is normally something I can do in one heat. But with the jig being cold, it's going to force me to take 2 heats on this. It is what it is. So, like the shawl pins, the leather scribes, I like to do 10 irons in the forge at a time. 10, holy moly. No, 5 irons, or 5 pieces of steel in the forge at a time. Like I said, that just basically works out to where I can do all the forging right across and not actually have to wait. I tried at one point in time trying to do 10, and basically it was just, they were sitting in there too long. So 5 is a good number. So like the shawl pins, the leather scribes get a taper on both sides. It's just one taper is going to be a little bit more of a longer taper. And the longer taper side is actually going to be the side where I'm going to make the scribe, where the shorter taper is going to get the little curl and the shepherd's crook. Yep. Now it's the press. Now with the press, I'm actually doing this cold, so I don't have to worry about going too far with the steel. But what I'm doing is I'm flattening out a section about this big on here, so I can put the twist in there. Now because it's round, the twist won't show up, but if I flatten out one side, I get a rope twist. So yeah, let's get that on. So now that I got everything forged up, it's time for good wire wheeling. Now, both my leather scribes as well as the shell pins get a beeswax finish, and that I'll do off camera because I tend to do that inside.